You only get one first marriage.
I love you.
If Devin is the one, you're sitting on that ring isn't doing you any good.
Why?
The day has come.
Oh, I have to go.
What? Oh. I just wanted to ask you something.
Can I just run my bath first?
I'm gonna ask Devin to marry me.
I think I might be in love with you.
With me?
Are you really gonna marry the first girl you've ever been with?
I haven't been in another relationship, and now this tall model likes me.
I could show you my boobs.
I thought you wanted to marry Devin one day.
Guess I've just been feeling kind of confused.
Are you trying to break up with me?
But no, I don't know.
And maybe you should go be with other girls. Otherwise, it's always going to be plaguing you.
I want to feel like a man. I want to experience crazy romance.
You want to talk to me?
Sure. About what?
No, like, dirty.
Oh no.
You sure you want Devin?
I've been dreaming about how I was gonna propose since 3rd grade.
You really have to chill out, you maniac.
Is Devin here?
She's gone.
Where?
Paris.
Surprise.
What? This was supposed to be my time.
Did you meet someone or something?
This is Guillaume. We just connected. We talked about art and politics. He's older. He cooks.
I'm sorry I don't cook. My family ordered in a lot when I was a kid.
I flew all the way out here to be with you.
I just don't know if I'm ready to be with you.
Oh, wow. Oh. I've been trying to ask you something.
Hey, you! What? My bush!
It's for love, man!
A lucky girl.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Simon?
I'm good. Is there anyone watching? Oh, hi, guys. How are you? Jeez. Nice to see all of you. Thanks for coming.
So we just watched a trailer there. Everyone can see it's based on a, true story is how you're promoting it, right? Like it's about your life and stuff. It's pretty, kind of very uncomfortable stuff to go through. When did you decide like that kind of personal trauma would make such a great romantic comedy, I guess?
Oh, another one of my terrible decisions. Yeah, it's a movie about bad decisions, and I made the decision to show everybody all of those bad decisions. So keeping in tradition. Yeah, I think that I had started talking to different people, or I was in meetings, and I would say, it would come up, and inevitably that I had this breakup story, and their mouths hit the floor at each turn at what an idiot I had been, and the epic proportions to which I had been that idiot. And so I thought, well, I know people have those moments, the breakup before the proposal or the clumsy proposal, less than perfect moment there. But I think mine takes the cake, and it spans continents, and it was a disaster. And so I thought, well, maybe people can learn from this, or at least feel better about all of their romantic blunders and shortcomings. So I offer this exorcism to the world.
What did your friends say when you were like, I'm going to make this movie about like all this stuff that you probably heard me talk about so many times, like how horrible it was or how painful it maybe have been to go through, and we're going to just make it into a comedy? I mean, like, what was that reaction like when you're like, here's what we're going to do?
Well, the reaction was kind of best from my wife, because when I came home and I said, oh my God, I just told all these people. I was in a meeting and we were talking about like ideas or stuff to write, and I said on the way out, I'd be like, I do have this story, and I said, so I told them our whole proposal story, and they thought it was hilarious. And she said, you told them? I haven't even told my parents that story. And I said, why not? And she said, because it was horrible. That was the next bad. I thought the end of this movie is going to be me telling my wife that I'm writing a movie, and she finally does leave me. So that was, but then she read it and she said, well, okay, it's funny. So, so I think that it was something that I don't know, for some perverse reason or some masochistic decision that I thought, let's let's do this. Let's tell this story.
So when you're writing the script, right? Like obviously you're basing it on events that happen to you. How do you go? Like what is going too far for you, or how do you build upon the jokes? I guess, right? Because like a lot of crazy stuff happens. I mean, we saw the trailer. We don't have to spoil it.
Yeah.
It's on demand today, so people can watch it.
Yes.
To see for themselves. But for you, what are you building? Like, how are we making this more ridiculous or upping the stakes?
I didn't have to work that hard.
Okay.
It just pulled from life. I mean, ultimately a lot of it is it's like 50% ripped from my guts, and the 50% kind of made up to make a better movie and a better story. But I don't know. I think I have some weird compulsion to humiliate myself as much as possible, and I feel like maybe it's at that moment of where you feel like you couldn't be embarrassed anymore, that you push it one more degree, and then I guess that's where I feel like you're truly vulnerable, and that kind of makes for good art sometimes. And sometimes, but it's embarrassing and it's painful. And so until the last couple of days, I think I forgot that the movie was going to come out, and that means that the public could go see it.
Right.
I thought, oh, this is funny, but now I realized I think it's too late to take it back. So you can all actually go and see it, and you should go see it. But it was. I don't know. I guess it was painful and revealing, but that sometimes makes for really funny moments, I think.
Right. So this is maybe a silly question, so bear with me, but you are named Quinn in the film, right? That's your character, and your wife's name is Devin, and her name in real life is Jocelyn.
Yes.
And I was curious, how did you come up with those fake names? Because I'm like, wow, Quinn for a man is like a cool name, and Devin, sometimes they would maybe be flipped. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. So why did you come up with those names?
I don't know.
How do you name your fake self in a movie?
That's a good question. I don't know. I can't really tell where that came from. I think I just saw it that way. Yeah, there are these sort of like the gender names, and the blonde girl who kind of comes in between us. Her name is Kelsey, which is also that can span men and women.
Right,
so
it's like a lot of different names.
Psychologically, something weird is going. Look, I was born a sexless person, and at my bar mitzvah, I decided I was going to be a man. It was either a bar. They put bar bat mitzvah. We didn't know which one, and I chose bar mitzvah. So today, I have male genitalia. Right. Next question.
So let's ask about the co-directing with your wife. I'm sure you've been asked that a lot, but what was that like for you? This is your first film. She'd already directed a feature film, so I mean, is she how did that relationship work for you on set, and what was that like?
Well, it was weird because it was a lot of this is based on these terrible moments in our relationship and these embarrassing fights and things where I said all the wrong things, and now we get to go back and relive them again in some of the same locations. Like we went to the Père Lachaise in Paris, where I actually did sob and weep and plead for her to come back with me to America and be my girlfriend. And she sent me away, and we went and did that. And it's and now she's on the other side of it, getting to tell me what to do in this scene. She's directing it. So it's sort of, for her, it was probably like a, proverbial twisting of the mustache. Like she had her revenge now. It's imagine going back to all those fights you had and getting to tell the person how they should behave and how they actually did behave. Right. She's like, no. Remember when we actually did this, you were much more pathetic. You were squealing. It was tears. The snot was coming out. I mean, you really emasculated yourself. So go from there. So yeah, it was a strange thing. It really was almost like kind of a psychological experiment. But and I've almost forgotten what is real or not. I think it's its own entity now, I guess.
Is that weird? I mean, it's a character you're playing, but it's also you, so much of you in it, I guess, right? So is it weird to separate? Are you where you're oh, I'm not really playing myself, but then I kind of am in certain spots, let's say.
Yeah. I think, I approached it as a character.
Okay.
And because it is, I mean, no one in this movie is exactly like they were, or in some of these characters are amalgams of people or didn't exist at all, or, and so for me, it was important that, that the essence was there, that there was a childish person, this character, my character at the center, was somebody who didn't know how to make decisions, somebody who is a bit solipsistic and who is over analytical and overly self-aware, and the way a lot of people are in their well, sometimes their whole lives, but their mid-20s, and, it's like you all of a sudden are, am I going to get married? Like, this is so perfect. I'm going to set it on fire and just and let the whole thing implode. And then you regret that decision, like me. A day after I pulled the rug out and said to my girlfriend, who was lovely, I need to explore, or I don't know, maybe I need to be a man, or maybe I need pain, or I'll sow my oats. Like, I open the door, there's no oats. I say, any oats? No oats? Just one oat? You know what? Fair enough. Hey, sorry, there were no oats. Can we get back together? And then, wait, where are you going? And she's off to Paris, and it's like, oh. So, it was just this, it was that moment of, I think I'll just sneak out here and take a look into the real world. And then my whole life just exploded. And I tried to pick up all those pieces, and that's sometimes what happens, especially you have that, quarter life crisis, and, what do I do? What does it all mean? And I don't know.
Do you look at the film now and are like, oh, I'm so much more mature now, a few years later?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, as I'm playing with my toys and watching my movie in the bathtub and my little boats and my duckies. Yes, and it's such a strange thing because I do feel like I've grown from that, but and it's also hard to just remember what was actually. I can't believe that I got onto an airplane and that's a long flight from Los Angeles to go to Paris. That's, I think it's 10 or 11 hours. And I just sat on that plane. But the craziest part, not to give away too much of the movie, is that I then sat on the plane on the way home by myself after she sent me home. And I knew that she had met a guy, and I knew that I may never, and I sat on that plane. I just can't believe I really did it. But I think it was at a certain point I didn't know, this is starting to seem like a romantic comedy. And are my decisions being informed by what I've seen in the movies? Because, that's what you do. You get on a plane and you say, knock, knock, knock. I made a lot of mistakes. But in this case, I said that, and she was like, yeah, and you just made one coming here, you moron. And so I don't know. I don't know what was driving me, but it was sort of that you're in that fog of war, and it doesn't seem real. I think that's another thing, too, when you're that age, is your decisions don't seem, even though they're affecting lots of people, real life is you're sort of looking at it almost from a third person, look at you down there. You could get married to this girl. You might fuck it up, and then you'll lose her. That's going to be painful. Well, you'll have to express that somehow in something else, and you'll find another girl. But then you're wait, this is my life. No, this is real. Yeah, so it was a confusing time.
Do you remember what movie you watched on the plane on the way home?
Oh, God. I probably just sat there with the headphones not plugged in, just and laughing at the movie, and they're like, sir, your headphones are unplugged. What? What? Yeah.
So casting, basically then Melanie plays your girlfriend, now wife, in the film. What went into, how did you guys decide on her for that part?
Well, Melanie is such a great actress, and we had known her a bit personally, and we just always dreamt of having her play that part, and kind of called her, but didn't know her very well. And you never know, if you know somebody, you don't want them to feel obligated to do this. And she knew Jocelyn, who's my wife, and so we didn't know. She really responded to it. We thought that the reasons that we kind of were in love with her, many people are, is, aside from her being so talented, she has this quality that you kind of fall in love with her just upon seeing her or hearing her. And she's funny and but also somewhat maternal, but somewhat sexy. And it just was obvious that she was the one. So we were more than thrilled. And she does so much with that part and helps make this story, I think, believable.
What was for you, working, like we said, on the set and stuff? Was there a specific moment that was incredibly awkward for you in front of, to do with your wife there and stuff, or no? I'm thinking of a couple, but I wanted to see what you would. Without spoiling, there's some graphic,
really sad sexual interactions.
Stuff. Yeah.
The sex scenes will make you cry. That's. I think I've said that before about this, but that is the truth. It was. There were moments that my wife's parents were there watching, and then it was like the scene was, even if these scenes didn't actually happen, again, it was like, there was like scenes where I was, making out with a different girl, like cheating on essentially their daughter, in front of them and their daughter, filming it while it was happening. And on top of it, it's a horribly clumsy, awkward, almost innocuous scene, because it's the things that happened were so stupid in the movie. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like the sex scene in Top Gun. It was ridiculous. So there was no sex. It was terrible. So there are her parents too, or there she is, like sitting behind, like sometimes they're very close quarters, and sometimes she couldn't even fit in. She's not a large lady, but she couldn't fit in the room because it was these tiny New York apartments. So she'd have to be like 3 stories down, literally, and we'd have just me, the actor, and then like an AD, and and the camera, and the AD would have a walkie-talkie that was connected to my wife, so she could watch, and then she could call up, and it got so uncomfortable because I would do the scene and it'd be silent, and then I'd hear like, "Take me to Simon," and like the guy would come over with this little walkie-talkie, and I'd be like, "What is this?" And he'd like put it in front of me, and she would, critique what I had done, or tell me to do it better, or say, "You looked cross-eyed in that last take. Are you all right?" Or, again, or like, "You need to squeal. I don't believe you. You're pushing it," or "No, I couldn't hear you." And that's whatever. And I'm just sitting there, this little black box of judgment that I'm like, and then I'd be like, "Can you please take her away from me?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, he wants me to take you away from him." And she'd be like, "No, you leave me here. You put me closer. Simon, you look me in the antenna." And so I'm going to throw this walkie-talkie out the window. But yeah, so it was a hybrid of incestuous, dysfunctional, strange things that happened on that set. But
you're obviously on like a giant hit TV show. How much like does doing this kind of like smaller indie film, or like you said, like you can't even fit everybody in the same room?
Yeah.
Is that like a joy then for you, or was that like? I mean, like you have done a lot of stuff before. Your resume is very long, but like like what was that like doing, like going to that from Big Bang Theory?
No, I enjoy a dressing room. Or
craft services,
air conditioning,
right.
The little things. I'm not spoiled, but heat stroke is not something I'm missing on the set of Big Bang. But it was different. But I didn't even have time to process everything because I was just doing so much between directing and with my wife and then acting and the writing. I mean, there was nothing. I couldn't blame anybody for anything. I couldn't be like, "Man, this scene." That joke is terrible. That was me. Oh, I should look at that line. Or the craft service is oh, I'm a producer on this. I'm in charge of the craft service. So it was really, there's nowhere to hide. And yeah, quite different from Big Bang, but a great, amazing, strange experience.
Was there something like about directing that you were totally blindsided by, let's say, where you were like, I did not expect that to happen at all?
Let's see. I think there were things throughout the filming that I think what was confusing was, again, because the lines were all blurred because I was also a producer too, and so it was sort of like you hear, as an actor, you're very sheltered, they don't, and they take they don't want to, it's like the talent, they call, they refer to you as the talent, which is also a lot to live up to, oh, the talent is here, and is the talent in the van? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And then it's like, so as the talent, I'd be like, this is great. And then, I would like close the door to the van, and when I became the producer, they'd be like, "We are fucked! We are fucked!" Like that was basically, and I was like, "Wait, I'm the talent." Yeah, so it was stressful.
So you kind of, I felt like right there, you kind of almost did a Nicolas Cage impression, and you're very famous for your impressions. I kind of wanted to read this. I was glad you were doing this week, because there was a Nicolas Cage story in the news that I kind of thought you would be great for. I'm going to read it to you. It's from The Hollywood Reporter. It's Borat director Larry Charles is back in action with Army of One, a satirical comedy with starring Nicolas Cage as a regular guy who goes on the hunt for Osama bin Laden. This is a real movie that apparently is going to happen. Wow. So I wanted to see what Nicolas Cage would think about going to hunt Osama bin Laden, I guess.
Well, I think first I'm going to bury him in my chest hair, probably suffocate. That could be kind of an interesting thing. maybe I'll sick one of my snakes on him. I have this great rare African snake named Lionel, so it could be kind of a great death scene, you know? Okay.
That's good. Very good.
Oh, wait, he's dead? All right, I don't watch the news.
Yeah, he's already dead, Nick. I'm sorry to tell you. But,
Sorry, I was just buying another Bentley. What?
When did you when did you realize you could do all those impressions? Like you do them so well. Like when did that become like a thing that you were like, oh wow, people want to see me do this?
Probably in high school, I think. I don't know. Although the Nick Cage thing probably came about from I was a kid, and people used to say that I looked like him, and we kind of did, and sometimes do. I mean, he looks quite different, and I do as well. But so I don't know anymore. But I think I just I connected to him. I loved him. I just came from loving those people, and then I think around high school once my voice changed and I was able to impersonate adults. It started, with teachers usually, I think, is how it would start, and then kids would laugh at that, and then I would watch, inside the actor's studio and watch Christopher Walken and hear, where I'd see other people do impressions on SNL, and but I'm a little shy about it, but I guess I don't at this point I can't be because people like yourself and other people have the internet, and I think once I was on Studio 60 and I did a bunch there, and then Conan, and then they wrote it onto Big Bang, and then I was like, all right, so, but sometimes it feels like a party trick, and I guess I get shy, or I get,
right,
but it's fun, and it's all loving. I mean, I don't know, I love all those people.
Yeah, have you ever run into the people that you do the impressions of? Let's say?
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
Luckily, I'm a little scared. I mean, I've made fun of, Nick Cage. I've said some things. I feel like on Conan, it came I started to get, I don't know, because I would just be improvising, and then I would say something about where did his sideburns go? I don't know, something mean about what's going on here, because he can look odd. He's kind of turning into Marilyn Manson too a little bit. And someone showed me a picture and I could not tell. So I get a little but that's all me joking, because he's really one of my all-time favorites. I wouldn't spend that much time obsessively watching somebody's performances and nuances and trying to become that person if I didn't love them. It would be it's strange either way. But
yeah, you mentioned they had it. You do it on The Big Bang Theory too. Was that something where the writers know you do that, so they want to come and have you do it, or are you oh, I could do this too?
No, yeah,
Okay.
I never am really upfront about. I'm not looking to showcase all that stuff. And they had seen it. I think particularly once Conan, who I've had such fun with, and he was the one that he kept making me do Nick Cage, and then I did a bunch on his show, and when the writers were I don't know what compelled them to do that, if it was just they wanted to hear them, but they worked it in, and I thought it made sense. I mean, my character does all these, he's like a showman, and it was, Dungeons and Dragons, and it was fun. People just like it.
Yeah, people love impressions,
They
it's
really
they
do.
really do.
It's crazy. I get it. I mean, it's because it's like a trick.
Yeah. Do you would you ever direct an episode of Big Bang Theory? Having off of this, with your experiences on
I
this?
don't. I mean, it's not I don't. I'm not trying. I think if I really made a push to do it, maybe I would be. They would let me. But I don't know. I feel like we have a good thing going. I don't want to and it's so different too from the. It really is. I mean, obviously, I've done hundreds of episodes of the show, so I understand at least the semblance of what it looks like. But it's not something that you can just jump into. It's a whole science. I mean, the cameras and there's 4 cameras going at once, and the technical side of it is, and then also that dynamic. Once and you'd have to talk to these actors. It's scary talking to actors as a director. I mean, but I was scared throughout our movie. It's just you have to be, even though I want to communicate to actors. Sometimes it's scary to walk up there and be this is what I think, and to be confident, because they can sense if you're not confident, and it's you kind of have to have all the answers. You can't, a director, it's rare that you hear someone go I don't know. Like a director's, what do you think? It's like, okay, I feel like you're gonna put together a fine project here, sir, Captain.
Was that something like with this then, where you like, did you talk, like, I mean, I guess obviously just your experience from working in so many films and TV shows is like you kind of know maybe how to talk to an actor? Like, what, like, was there any kind of like, did you like talk to other directors before you did this, or like, you know, I mean, obviously your wife is a director too. But.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I feel like I understand is what I want to communicate to actors and how to the language to kind of use. But in terms of the getting my feet to go in front of each other and walk up and stand there confidently, like it's just a hard thing. It kind of feels, sometimes it feels like a confrontation, because it's also like sometimes you'll meet directors that it's interesting, like their insecurity, like sometimes they'll talk really quietly, and it makes you feel really weird because they're not confident, and so even if they're saying things, they're like, so listen, I think, and you're like, what? What? And then it feels like they don't want anyone else to know, which sort of makes you feel like you've done something bad, but they're trying to keep it secret. It's it's like a psychological thing. So I think, like, you know, I love communicating. I love actors, and I think I can watch a scene and I can know exactly what I would want to say about it. But sometimes it's like that moment of getting up there and doing it is it is its own thing. So yeah, you gotta be confident.
Are you looking to do more film, like, as a director, or is this something, like, did you like it enough that you want to do it again?
I mean, I don't really, the reason I did this was because I felt like I had to do it, and I felt like nobody else could do this because it was so personal. And I guess that's kind of a good barometer, I think, for me, is just, okay, do I have to direct this movie? And if I do, then I will. And if I don't, you know, I guess I'm an actor before anything for me, and it's what I love doing most. And so, but if I was compelled to direct something, I don't know if I'd want to do it with this much me. There's so much of me in this movie, and it's about a bit of a narcissistic character, and I'm in every scene, and I did so many things that it's like, you know, it'd be nice to be able to sit down throughout the process of making a movie,
right.
As opposed to just, you know, flailing and running around. So yeah, we'll see where that.
Do you think that helped your performance in this, though, like having to be that so like tense and stressed throughout like the production, and then do you bring that to the screen then? Because I mean, you're very frazzled. Let's say.
Yeah,
like
it came naturally to me. I mean, this guy is at the height of I mean, I'm a bit of an anxiety-ridden person, to say the least, and you know, and neurotic, and he's probably was more neurotic than I am now. Maybe it's what I was then. I don't know, but I think it was something that helped. But it also it's detrimental too. I lost 15 pounds while I was making the movie, which is ridiculous because I barely weigh 15 pounds. So, and it was strange that part of that was this heat wave, and part of it was this like the stress, and it took its toll. I mean, it was not an easy thing to do for many reasons. But yeah, I definitely, that the character was on the brink of a breakdown, and it helped that so was I.
Okay, I think we could turn it to some audience questions now. If anybody has any, we could start.
We have
there.
time for just a couple of questions.
Just a couple of questions. Okay, we got up front here.
Hey, so I'm a Big Bang fan.
Thanks.
And I know Howard has some great pickup lines, so I wanted to know, what are some of your favorite pickup lines he said?
Oh, jeez. Do you remember any of them? I think I try to erase them from my memory. And if you do remember them, you should erase them from your memory. Because they're not going to do you any good in the real world. Jeez. I don't know. They're all bad. And I know there was that period where he was trying, like, negs or whatever, where you say, like, you know, even though your teeth are huge, you still look something. I don't know. I don't remember. It was like where you insult them, but while also giving them what's your favorite one? And I'll just say that's mine too, because I can't. What, do you have one?
I guess I gotta go with the negs now.
Okay, smart choice. Yeah, it's a good what not to do. I don't know. They were all. He's been married for so long now. I've forgotten his sleazy side. I'll have to go back and watch some of those early episodes.
Any other questions up front here as well?
Was anyone against the making of your movie, and how did you feel about it? If they were?
Was anybody, sorry?
I'm sorry, was anyone against the making of your movie?
Oh, against it? The French government, but who cares? No, I'm sure that there were people who played roles, in this these events in our life that probably weren't incredibly thrilled. But again, I really tried to. There's nothing that I just took out of life, 100%. I embellished things to make a better movie. People were amalgams of different characters or just, inventions in my mind. And ultimately, my main goal was to make myself the buffoon. So I wasn't really trying to make... Everybody else in the movie should look better than my character. And it was all playful, and I'm sure, I never intended to hurt anybody's feelings. But, that... I don't know. We'll see. If somebody punches me, any part of my body, I will be upset, and I will say sorry.
Any other questions? We have time for more. I have one.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
I have another
What's your
one.
name?
My name is Chris. Hi, nice to meet you. You were on my favorite episode of Arrested Development, the Meet the Veals episode, where Maybe is running a studio and you're like her assistant and you're like, marry me. And I just think that is the funniest episode and it's so great. And I wanted to ask you about your experience on Arrested Development because that was awesome.
I was a huge fan of that show and that was amazing. I couldn't believe that I got to go do that. We shot a bunch more that they ended up cutting. It was a whole Graduate parody that we did, actually. We shot this whole thing where I it's driving the car and running out of, except it was a golf cart around the studio and then the running after her and the bus at the end. It was like this whole Graduate thing, but it was amazing. I actually just worked again with Alia Shawkat on something, and that show is if people haven't seen it, I don't even know if there's probably a
Do people have not seen Arrested Development? You think that's a real thing? I
do. I bet you. How many people in this room have seen Arrested Development? Okay, bad example. Okay, I just feel like I feel like there's certainly a generation.
Maybe,
because it was only on for 2.5.
Yeah, but now Netflix and DVDs.
You're right.
People watch TV all the time.
You're right. All right, good. Keep watching it. It was such a good show. Like I said, everybody's seen it, so It's
I think we have time for one more. Is that what do we got? One more or two more? One more? Go ahead. Another one from our friend up front here.
All right.
Oh, hey.
I feel like I'm winning
Look,
today.
I don't remember the pickup lines. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, besides the pickup lines, Howard's got some pretty sweet belt buckles. And I wanted to know, where'd that love of belt buckles come from for Howard? And I don't wear belt buckles, so am I missing anything?
Yes, you're missing cutting off the circulation to your groin when you sit down. It's a wonderful feeling. It's tingly, and then it just goes dead. There's some weird ones there. Our costume designer, Mary Quigley, is brilliant, and she came up with the look. I mean, all of them, all those characters are. I've seen these shirts and things where it's just the wardrobe and the heads are cut off, and it says so much about her, the costume designer, that they're so identifiable and we don't wear the same thing every episode, but it really speaks to the specificity of that. And those belt buckles, my guess is that if you put something big enough and shiny enough, close enough to the prize, there will divert the eyes. Is that Shakespeare? No, I think it's a central. It's the target. I mean, if you're wearing a giant, gear shifter belt buckle where there's like a phallus hanging off and it's neutral and you can adjust it, at some point somebody's going to reach down there. And for a guy who is desperate for attention, it's not a bad. A lot of happy accidents can happen that way.
I think that's a great way to end it right there. That sounds good. We'll Never Have Paris is out now, and you can also watch it on demand. Thank you very much, Simon Helberg, for joining us.
Guys.